I've been working for the past past 3 years with Moishe Mana on his Mana Common vision and strategy, which encompasses downtown, the Wynwood district, as well as his assets in Jersey City and the New York, New Jersey area. And we've been very much focused on developing a community that was more than, and by Moishe's direction, a community that's more than about real estate. And while I want to give you a brief overview of where we are in terms of our real estate assets downtown and the investment downtown as it relates to real estate, the real meat of this presentation, Ariadne is going to step up, who's the head of Mana Tech. One element of the Mana Common, the Mana Common group, that's really focused on bringing technology investment, technology companies, venture as Ray will describe to you in more detail in a minute. Currently, and this is the most recent map this morning, everything in orange in downtown is the Mana holdings within the downtown district. So the largest holdings are in the core of Block 125 or Block 122. You may be familiar with Flagler Station. Buildings here, the 777 Oldest Theater in downtown Miami, and Block 125 as well. So there's been, Moishe started acquiring, it's incredible that, how extensive this map is in terms of holdings, but Moishe really only started acquiring assets in downtown in 2014. So it's literally only been 5 years time period that he's done the acquisition, has been working on the plans for the future of this district and downtown and the core of the city. And so we've gotten to the point where we have a very clear direction of how we're about to deliver these assets to the community, to Mana Common, and to the market overall. Next week, if we're on track, which we seem to be, we will submit for permits to the city for the 125 block, much of the 125 block here, for the rehabilitation of this building, the garage, and other elements of the block. That will be we'll be able to open that building in the first quarter of 2021. And as well as we're already underway in the demolition, interior demolition and redevelopment of this Spice Food Hall, and that also includes a pocket park, by 2021 in the first quarter. So within just over a year's time, the first several buildings are due to come online. The project will then roll into Flagler Station, which, as Uri will describe, Station H is going to be our centerpiece for the tech community. The 77 building, Wells Fargo, which he owns as well, and then continue to the north and west in terms of redevelopment. But we expect by the first quarter of 2022 to have the real core elements of the Mana Common complete, open, operating, and occupied during that period. You may be familiar with what we constantly refer to, 155 South Miami Ave. The building now is this white building that was built in 1980s with very small windows. The plan, as the city will see very soon, is to entirely reclad the building with glass, redo the parking garage, as well as the adjoining buildings, and develop a brand new building, do selective demolition on the corner, and develop a new building in downtown on the corner of the block. So again, we think that will be in construction early to mid 2020. So you'll start to see construction at that period and complete this within an 8 or 9 month period. Flagler Station, which is the next block. So this is, if you actually look, this is the current 155 building now the way it is. So totally redesigning, recladding that building. Flagler Station, which is at the intersection of Flagler and Southeast First Avenue, is to redo the entire block, including a pocket park. There's an empty lot here adjacent to the Macy's building, so leave that open for public use. It'll be a privately owned, but open for use during the day, but with controlled access as well. Redevelop the entire corner on 76 Flagler and redevelop the existing Flagler Station building, as well as this historic building here, which we've now opened up. Has beautiful brick walls inside, amazing beams throughout the building, and an amazing facade as well, which we're in the process of restoring.
I'm sorry, quick question?
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yes, sir.
The Pocket Park is at ground level, or is that elevated?
It is at ground level. So what you can't see here, Commissioner, is there is an idea of doing roof to table gardens on the top of this building, and that's what's showing here. But there is this. If you look at the adjacency, it's this. You can just kind of see the gate in this orientation for the Pocket Park in that location. So add some green space to downtown. And we're doing something similar on the 777 building too, which I don't think in this presentation. So it's just kind of.
Would that Pocket Park be a potential for a permanent restaurant?
I'm sorry?
A permanent public restaurant?
A permanent public restaurant. To be determined. So, I mean, I guess one thing we want is to ensure that there's controls over the park, not unlike many cities, right? That there's public spaces that are privately owned. So to the extent that we can integrate that in, for sure, and there will be, because we're anticipating that there's a core food element that rolls out into that green space area, there certainly will be bathrooms that are open during operating hours.
If we could work with your design team on that, or as we want to expand more public restrooms, they would be fully manned at all hours that they're open and cleaned after every single use. So it actually could be an amenity to the park that makes it even safer and more active.
Yeah, so to the extent that it is something of that nature, absolutely, and we're going so. Just to say, on that piece, that is moving at very quickly right now, and so we probably need, if we're gonna have that conversation, it probably has to be within the next several weeks. But we'd gladly have sit down and be able to talk.
Thank you, staff. I'll be glad. Thank you.
So this is the Flagler Station entrance as we've conceptualized it now. The design isn't entirely done, but at least kind of if you know this building now, it's there's a overhang over the sidewalk. I can't believe it's out over the sidewalk. It's a very messy building, so the whole idea is to really transform the space so that it then turns into something that can become the centerpiece of Monotech and hopefully the tech community within the core of downtown. And with that, and of course, certainly here to answer questions at the end of this, but I want to turn it over to Uri so that Uri can really give you a sense of what Monotech is all about, this one component of the Monocom.
Thanks, Paul. Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Uri Adoni. I come from Israel. I've been with my colleague Gael. We've been going back and forth in the last 12 months or so. In the last 13 years, I've been a partner at Jerusalem Venture Partners, JVP. It's a $1.4 billion fund with a 20 plus $billion of exit values, and was ranked as one of the top 10 venture capitals in the world in terms of consistency of performance, so we're proud of that. The reason it's all combined because at JVP in Israel, to the ones who've been to Israel, we built a few physical ecosystems. First was in Jerusalem, the other one in Beersheba, and now in other places in the country. And the idea of these ecosystems is that you have not only the tech and the fund and the portfolio companies, but also culture. There's a performing arts center, restaurants, hotels, so it's a very similar vision to what Monocommon is doing. So when we all got together, we thought it's a great opportunity. So what is exactly Monotech? So we are the technology kind of arm of the Mono Group, and it's a kind of a unique combination, I would say, of real estate services and investment. I'll expand on that in a minute. And really, we try to give a variety of answers and solutions to individuals, to businesses, and to the community. Manatech is basically have three main pillars: a physical pillar, a services pillar, and an investment pillar. I'll start with the physical, and following on Paul's presentation, the main thing we want to create in downtown Miami is we want to start with the physical hub. Similar to what we did in Israel, for those of you who are familiar with Station F in Paris, it's a similar concept. So the idea is to have, it's not just a co-working space, it's actually mini ecosystem. So the idea is actually to bring together the different various players of the ecosystem, whether it's startups, investors, university, corporates, labs, research labs, service providers, etc. One of the things we've kind of noticed when we came to Miami was that there is tech in Miami, but it's kind of scattered and it's isolated. So you have the funds, you have universities, you have some corporates, but they're not really working as one, as an ecosystem. And we think that our role is actually to just connect and make this ecosystem work as one, which we believe it's a huge opportunity. So the idea is to take the buildings of the Flagler Station, the one next to it, the Woolworth, which is in the open court, and then the building next to it, and to create out of that, that would be the main campus. It's about 200,000 square feet of space. On top of that, we will also have the 155 building, Wells Fargo. We already started bringing actually startups to there, and our office is there as well. We're just moving there. So the whole area there is going to be around tech and about startups. And I'll mention it a bit later, but we're not only talking about the local tech, we're thinking that Miami should grow also, not only organically, but also aorganically. So we want to actually import startups, whether it's from Latin America, Israel, and Europe. We're going to host events as part of the physical thing, so we're now kind of thinking which place would be the best one for the events, but all sorts of events. We just had an event, just to give you an idea of what kind of events we had on last Friday, an event called when art meets tech, so how artists and how the art world is going to change with the technology, and it can be when food meet tech and finance meet tech and these kind of events that we're planning. And there is, I know, tech talks that the DDA is planning to do, and we will be happy to collaborate on that as well. On the services side, we're talking about two main things. One of the major things that startups need are a set of services, whether it's legal services, accounting services, HR services, recruiting. So part of this campus, we will actually supply these services to the tenants. Again, it's something that has been working well for us in Israel, and we're kind of importing the concept. It's something that's been working well. Another service that we think would be interesting is what we call a landing pad. The landing pad is on top of the physical place that we would like to bring people outside the US. And again, as Israelis, we know every one of our portfolio companies, we usually relocate after 12 to 18 months. It's very good because we have a very small market. So we need to relocate. Usually it's New York or the Valley or Boston, but we think Miami can definitely be a target geography to attract startups, and also from Latin America. The idea behind the landing pad is that you have a one-stop shop of all sorts of services that the startup needs. So I mentioned a few, like on the legal, on accounting and recruiting, but there's more. So there's visa services that they need, and maybe the most important thing is business development, to get them connected to potential clients, potential corporates that will use their technology. Funding, of course, is also part of the landing pad. So this is something that we have been started talking to a few startups and also councils or kind of country councils, consuls actually, that they're very interested to kind of see how to collaborate with us and to open kind of landing pad that will be almost per country, and we're working on that as well. The last pillar is the investment pillar. Probably next year we're going to launch a venture capital, because one of the ways to attract startups or to make them stay here and not leave is through capital. And we want to launch, it won't be a very large fund, probably be in the tens of millions, but something that we can actually invest in early stage startups, whether it's seed stage or A round or pre-A companies, and then part of the investment would be to make them stay in Miami. So again, something that we are familiar with, and it's been working well. And the last thing about the investment part, it's an incubator. We're now in touch with a couple of universities. One of them is Ivy League University. I can't reveal the name yet, but it's very advanced discussions on creating this kind of joint venture to create this accelerator and build companies that are based on IP, intellectual property coming out from the universities. So we're very excited about that as well. So it's kind of what we call the fund feeder. It's early stage companies that you start, and then the fund comes and support them and follow on the investments. On top of that, support all that, we're going to launch an application. It's not out there yet. It'll probably be launched somewhere in the end of Q1. The idea of the application, it's twofold. One is to give the tech community and the downtown community some kind of a benefit because of their buying power. As simple as that. Again, there's something that's been working in Israel well. You get all these incentives, and you just because it's a great community, and because you work in high tech, you can enjoy this app. Part of that, and again, something that doesn't exist here, and we know what's working well, is actually the opportunity for employers to sponsor lunch for employees. So in Israel, I don't think there's one high-tech employer that pays for their own lunch, because it's all kind of being subsidized by the employer, whether it's 50% subsidized, 100%. It's a very simple kind of app. The employer just chooses what they want to eat and they order it. So that's going to be also part of the app. And another layer that will be there, it's a communication layer. So anything to do, again, with the connection of the people, whether you want to go to a yoga class together, or you want to sell, or you're looking for a dog walker, or any thing that you need from the community, you can actually connect with the people. And this is something, again, that we know that's been working well and that has been missing. We'll show you a quick sneak peek of this application. If you could run the video, please.
You know it's time. You just feel it in the air. It's time to form new partnerships, to share our passion, to collaborate with one another. It's time to make a significant impact on our communities. It's time to build bridges with other parts of the world. It's time to grasp communication and connect. Common introduces Communa, a unique interactive platform bringing the Miami community together. A new platform that will enable us to communicate, collaborate, form new partnerships, and to leverage our buying power for the benefit of the community. Join us in making a significant impact and to make Miami the best place for technology, innovation, art, and culture. Communa. It's time to connect.
Yeah, I think there's
One question. What's your business model?
so there's a few business models. One business model is, I would say, it's a real estate, but it's a unique real estate model, because we don't want to be positioned as landlords that just take rent. That's not the concept. The idea is to have a subscription model, so you could actually be subscribed to this community. And part of the subscription, you get the rent, you get some services, and so it's a recurring revenue thing rather than just a lease and a tenant kind of relationship. The other model is a VC model, venture capital model, which is investing, hopefully in the right companies, growing the companies, and making exits, either IPO in NASDAQ or M&As, and then the multiple varies whether you made the right decisions on the companies or not.
Alan, you mean more broadly what the model is?
No, in
or
general,
specifically
I'm
the
asking a general question, so it's more for you to decide what you want to answer.
Thanks for the presentation. I think that this really has, excuse me, the potential to be transformative for downtown. The sheer assets and resources that you're deploying on this scale is, I think, specifically to stimulate the technology ecosystem has enormous potential. I guess I have two questions. One is, to the extent that you're comfortable sharing this, are there any commitments that you've already received from companies that are interested in moving into the general infrastructure that you've set out? And you don't have to get into specifics if you don't feel comfortable, and that's fine, but just a general description. And secondly, how can we help in this initiative, because it is so central and of such potential that it's something that certainly I feel very strongly about supporting.
Yeah. So thank you. First, I would say that we had quite a few meetings with the DDA, and all the team here, Christina and the team, were always very supportive, and it's a great kind of dialogue that we have with you, so we really appreciate that. In terms of tenants, the way we are going about it, it's like it's a pipeline. It's basically, you know, we're actually creating this mix. As I said, we want a mix of startups, investors, corporates, presence, universities. So we're having this mix, and we're targeting actually quite a few of the potential tenants now. We're starting filling up the pipeline. We have some initial LOIs. I wouldn't say that it's final yet.
Can you give a general sense of the profile of the companies?
So it depends. So it can be a relatively young startups of 10 to 15 employees. It can be a company that already in the 50 to 100 employees. But in that case, they won't necessarily all move to downtown or to this building. We may have some of them work in 155 and one in Flagler Station. And we had initial talks with some large corporates. Some of them don't necessarily sit within Miami. And for example, they sit around Fort Lauderdale. And some of their employees are here, and we suggested to them that they will have some kind of an arm in Miami, or a presence for their employees, so they don't have to commute every day. So they like the idea. So it's not that we're going to move their whole organization here, but if they'll have, like, I don't know, 10,000 square feet, that would be good for us. Also talked to a couple of universities about it, about a research lab, and again, a presence in downtown that they want to do. So I can't say it's matured yet, because we actually have a little bit of time. It's about two and a half years till the station will be ready. We are occupying already the Wells Fargo building. So there's already like real exchange of papers with some potential tenants there. So we already started bringing them. We don't want to wait for the whole thing to be ready and then just start marketing. We already start doing the work. Some of the people we talked to, they have a lease that will end in 1 year, 2 years. So this is actually the time to start. For your second question, I think that would be probably our main help that we need is with these tenants. And so anybody, and actually, I mean, Greg, you're doing some really good job. We've got some leads from you. So any lead that you can think of, let us do the filtering. Just feel free to bombard us with anybody who is interested to be part of this tech community, and we will take it from there and hopefully create the right package for them. This is within Miami. If you hear of any outside Miami, whether it's companies, whether it's outside inside the U.S., outside Miami, there is a trend going out of the valley now because it's so expensive there, and basically Google and Facebook eating your lunch in terms of employees. So people are not going that fast anymore. But any company from the US who are considering to come here, any company that thinks that would be the gateway to Latin America, it's a great competitive advantage that Miami has, because corporates don't necessarily want to open 10 offices across LATAM. They want one office here. So that would be interesting for us to hear. or companies, again, from Latin America, funds, anybody who's part of this ecosystem that we want to kind of bring together. Just, be happy for an intro, and we'll follow up on it. We're coming here every month for about 10 days, 2 weeks, so we're constantly here. And that will be, I think, the main thing that we need for now.
Just one of the,
Sure.
the DDA and its advocacy role is really important for us also on that second point that I already said, which is, a lot of these companies are still seeking out, and especially the ones that are established and have choice where they locate in terms of incentives around the country and around the world. And so, that consistent advocacy that this agency has always been involved in, but keeping at it around technology, specifically with the state and the county as well, to make sure that those funds continue to be allocated to target industries, including technology in downtown, is critically important for us and this attraction. So as we get this interest from Israel and Brazil and others, it's pretty consistent. We definitely need that support.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? All right, for my part, where the DDA can help or be involved, I would say is at the two ends of where you are. One, what struck me in the renderings is the Flagler Street vision there, which started at the DDA. The first iteration was a quagmire. I'm glad it stopped us in our tracks, because it was actually the Demonic Group and Ziskovich that came up with the renderings that inspired both the city, the DDA, and the county to cobble together the funds in a rare cooperation over $26 million to actually realize that Flagler Street change. And that will allow stakeholders like yourselves to effectuate this sort of ecosystem you're looking for. Flagler, when it gets done, will be the spine to a nervous system of this entire area that downtown hasn't seen in forever. And that's great. So that's, on one side, we're setting the table. On the other end, what you just talked about, incentives, as we've done with 500 startups, we really want to help recruit and bring your tenants the best potential jobs and entrepreneurs to come here. We've shown that we have an interest in that, and that we have a check for that. We have a bank account that's meant to help that. In between, you've got to do your part and do the renovation and do the build.
Right.
And so I'm hoping and trust that you're in coordination with our capital improvements department as all the phasing's going on and everything. That renovation of Flagler Street was meant to start, but knowing where Super Bowl is going to land, we decided to begin it right after, so we don't have open streets before. But I know we're all in coordination on that. The other thing that struck me in the video, and this is something I brought up a few times, but the DDA nor the committees, I don't believe has really tackled it. And I don't want to get into mission creep, so don't think that I'm asking us to take on something so big or foreign, but we need to recognize what affects us as a downtown if we're missing a crucial element. How many of the people that you saw in that video can actually afford to live in downtown? And with the commuter system that we have, with the public transportation system that we have, the more we can incentivize a workforce to live downtown, it's going to be successful for those companies who want to move here. When I talk to companies, they don't say, give me a tax break. They say, make an ecosystem that's good for my employees to want to be here so it's easy for me to recruit. And if we're not doing that part, so I'm not saying let's get into the affordable housing game as a DDA. The affordable housing spectrum is being covered by many agencies, from those just getting out of homelessness to those in the true affordable range. But workforce housing is something that this board should recognize what's going on, understand what it means, and encourage it. An ordinance was passed on first reading at City Commission last night that I was against, and I think people should understand what it means. Affordable housing is separated into different tiers of average median income, of your AMI. And right now, the workforce section can go up to 120, 140%. The ordinance would lop it at 100%. The intention is good because in some parts of the city, when you're going above that, you're going above market rate, and so you're almost incentivizing something that's not needed, and it looks like a giveaway. But in other places, it's very relative. To have an apartment at $1,200, $1,300 in the core of downtown actually is unheard of these days, and we need to encourage that. So what I'm hoping is that and just for example, a working couple that makes $35,000 apiece would now be priced out of of this workforce element if it's lopped down to 100%. So that passed on first reading, 2 to 3. So, you know, I don't want the DDA to get involved in the entire spectrum of affordable housing, but I think we should have a voice if we believe that workforce is important, and that we would encourage that the city and the other agencies working on housing prioritize it, because it's what's going to feed this ecosystem. It's a missing element we've never touched on.
One question, well, I agree with what you're saying about affordable housing, but let me ask you, out of curiosity, of the $26 million that have been spent in flagging,
Sorry, 24.
24, how much is public? How much is private?
So,
1 million public, 23 private. That tells you.
and main,
That tells you.
He's saying
The flip. Sure, because I heard that Mana is spending 20-something.
No.
no.
I love to be wrong.
city and county,
City and county.
where,
Right.
and DDA, and where the flagler bid is stepping up is on maintenance, and so that is private. The bid is going to be a self-taxing group of that area's stakeholders, and their commitment is that if we do these non-standard improvements as a government, they will commit to the maintenance costs of the non-standard improvements. So it is a partnership. Elisa?
So what do you think that the average salary of the people working in the home will be?
It's a good question. It really depends on the level of the employers, but on the employees, sorry. But I think it's lower than New York or the Valley. That should be the case. So one of the again, the way you attract companies or talent in terms of being here, it's not just about the weather or tax incentives. It's actually that you can get talent for a lower rate on one hand, but you know the cost of living here is also lower.
Right.
So in a way, it should be some kind of an attractive package both for the employee and the employer.
So, since I don't know, I'm sorry for my ignorance, but I don't know what New York is versus to California versus to Miami, so why don't you give me an example?
You know, I would say just average of a relatively junior person in a startup would say would make about anywhere between $180,000 to $130,000 a year. And a VP level would do.
Where, here or in?
No, I think here should be this area. No, there is higher.
Okay.
So I think I don't think that in the Valley you would find many people working for less than $100,000 a year. I think here we can definitely, from the things we've seen, very talented people, very motivated people, and the salaries could be around 70, 80 for this level. So I think it's probably around 15-20% less than that.
But
But
entry-level coders and your beginning staff, you're talking in the 50s to 60s range as well, right? Not executives and not...
Yeah, so that's even lower. But again, if you look at New York or the Valley, it's actually higher.
But well above
So,
35 also, which I think is what we're trying to do more and more.
Right, but that's a household income, so even one person at 60 could qualify for the workforce housing. And that's why I'm not trying to get us into affordable housing, but workforce housing as a DDA. I think there's enough people working on the lower end of the spectrum, but the DDA should be focused on workforce to make sure that's still in the conversation, because otherwise the Commission and other agencies might recognize, not feel that that's a part that we need to even think about. But I think we need it.
One last comment following your comment. I think that in terms of funding or incentives, again, in Israel there's a thing called the Innovation Authority, the Israel Innovation Authority, that has a budget from the government, and it's actually a public-private partnership that works very well. And there's all sorts of programs to support early-stage startups, to support, to incentivize investors, to incentivize corporates in tax-free, all sorts of ways to do it. We know that the county is also involved. We know the governor was in Israel just a few months back and had some thoughts about it. I know that, again, from what we've learned, the DDA doesn't have that budget currently to allocate to these kind of incentives, but we actually would appreciate if there will be some kind of a dialogue between the DDA, the county, and maybe the governor in order to attract these companies here and to incentivize them by all sorts of means. It doesn't necessarily have to be investment. It can be all sorts of other means, and I won't get all the programs that we have in Israel, but we could definitely copy-paste some of them. And so if there is some kind of a dialogue that we can be part of and we can suggest some potential programs, we'll be happy to be part of
So
that.
Philippe, who spoke earlier, is the chair of the Enterprise Committee. And I think he would be open to his committee taking on some of these concepts, not only for the incentives, but for even perhaps the workforce. We've never spoken about it, but it's something that the committee wants to take up. I think the board would love to see what sort of, where we stand at least on these issues, and maybe we even take a position.
And to your comment, by the way, one of the programs is that you can incentivize people that moving to downtown, to living downtown, they get some kind of a bonus if they stay a year or 18 months or whatever. So there's all sorts of levels. It's not only on the company level or the corporate level, it's also on the individual level. So if you're a startup, you have an employee, they live in downtown, the company get a bonus that they can actually move to the employer, and there's all sorts of tax-free things, etc. But you can actually incentivize also the people to move in, and that can support this affordable housing plan as well. So it could be all kind of connected very well. Any further questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Coming to fruition. We do have duties here, Duverlis.